Hey, this is Mark Spoonauer at Laptop Magazine, and today we're here with the Motorola Droid Bionic, and it's a superphone for Verizon. It's the first handset for the carrier that combines dual-core processing power with 4G LTE speeds, and we're going to tell you what we like and what we don't about this $299 superphone. All right, so let's get up close and personal with the Bionic here. We have a 4.3-inch display that dominates the front of the device. It's really bright and it's crisp, pretty good viewing angles too. And you can see you have that nice little circuit board pattern in the background that tells you this is a Bionic device. And then underneath the screen you have your standard buttons for search, back, home, and menu. And you have the Verizon logo right here. Nice little sheen to the bottom of the device, but overall it's definitely not as fancy as some of the other Android handsets that we've seen. On the left-hand side you have the micro USB and micro HDMI port. And as you can see, the design tapers from about a ½ inch here to 0.43 inches. And what Motorola tried to do, because the Bionic was delayed, was try to slim things down a little bit. And it does slim to a certain degree, but you are just carrying more phone here than you will with the iPhone 4. So you just have to think about whether or not you want that 4.3-inch screen. So on this side we have the volume up and down buttons, and up top you have the power on off and the headphone jack. And on the back you have a pretty nice matte finish. Didn't pick up fingerprints too much so far in our testing. And you have an 8-megapixel camera with autofocus, and this is capable of shooting 1080p video. On the software front, we're looking at what used to be the Moto Blur interface, and thankfully Motorola has taken sort of a nice light touch in terms of adding on to the Android interface. So you can see here some pretty cool animations. This is all of your your favorite contacts that you can swipe up and down. And you can also see that because this phone has a dual-core TI OMAP processor, that it's swipes through all the screens pretty quickly. I mean, there are some things about the software that we don't like though in terms of the interface. So for example, if I wanted to add this to the home screen, usually what happens is when you press and hold on an icon, you can just automatically add it to whatever home screen you want. Motorola here is just adding an extra step that's unnecessary. It's add to home or add to group, and even then it just plops there, and then you have to move it around. On a lot of other Android phones you can directly place it wherever you want to. And there's a few other areas where the Droid Bionic excels. One is the 4G LTE data. So what you can see here is that we've run the test multiple times, and we've seen speeds range from 6 megabits per second all the way up to 20 on the download, and anywhere from let's say 2 to 5 on the upload. So well within the range that Verizon's talking about, and a huge difference between Verizon Android phones and other carriers. The other thing that we like about the Bionic is that Motorola and Verizon have done a nice job of bundling some apps that we think a lot of people are going to use. The Citrix is there for remote access. And one of the coolest apps is ZoomoCast, which turns the Bionic into a wireless hard drive. Right now it's connected over the web to a ThinkPad, and you can see all of our documents, music, pictures, and everything else on the hard drive. And within a couple of seconds the music starts streaming. See? So your PC needs to be on, but it's kind of a really nice cloud-based solution. So the Droid Bionic, like the Atrix 4G from AT&T, Verizon is going to be selling this with a optional lap dock, and it literally transforms the phone into a mini laptop. This is an 11.6-inch display, and the benefit of the web-top interface, which is Motorola software, is that you get the full Firefox browser, and that means you can access sites like Hulu that are off-limits to you when you're using the phone by itself. But you can use the web-top interface with other accessories. This is a HD dock that can attach to your TV, as well as USB ports, so you can use a keyboard and external mouse over USB. And this $99 accessory also comes with a remote control, so you can control your media from across the room. We think a lot more people will be interested in this accessory though. It's a USB, or it's a mini web-top accessory that connects via HDMI and USB to the phone, and then out to your TV with HDMI. And it gives you the same web-top interface on a larger display, but just for 29 bucks. So that's a pretty cool, user experience for a pretty affordable price. In terms of, what we don't like about the Bionic, I mean, there's a couple of things. One is that, the camera is kind of slow. It's capable of taking good pictures, but you can see that it took a few seconds for the shutter to kick in. Granted, it does better outdoors, but we've seen much faster cameras on other Android phones. And the other issue is battery life. This has a large capacity battery, in fact the largest in its class for LTE phones. But it really depends on what you're doing. We were down to 20% after 4 hours when we used the mobile hotspot for a little while, but we got up to 8 hours when we were just using the phone by itself. So you'll definitely want to engage the power settings to make sure that you're not syncing all the time. Okay, so this is our review of the Motorola Droid Bionic. We're giving it 4 out of 5 stars because we really like the display, the 4G LTE speeds, as well as the dual-core processing power that this super phone packs. There are some things that we don't like about the phone, is that it's a little bit on the bulky side. The battery life can be short depending on what you're doing, but overall it's one of our top picks for Verizon and one of the best Android phones on the market yet. This is Mark Spoonhour with Laptop Magazine, and this is the Motorola Droid Bionic.